Welcome to another episode of Audience First. I am thrilled to be in sunny California with two very special guests of mine. I will not do justice, though, introducing them, so I want to give them airtime and let me know who they are. So we're going to start here to my left. Cecil, how about you tell me who you are, what do you do, and why the hell do you do it?
I'm Cecil. I work as a CISO of a large healthcare organization. I'm also co-founder of an organization that some of you may know, CISO XC. And I think I like to fix things. I like to solve things, and that's why I'm working as a CISO.
You know, I meet a lot of CISOs and practitioners, and you all are tinkerers. I mean, you like to break things and build them back up. Do you feel like you're kind of in that boat as well? And
first of all, I feel that getting to know Chief Information Security officers, including you, Cecil, and it's great to be here with you. Many times, especially in large organizations, such as the one that you lead, I see visionaries.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to be a visionary in a world of constraints.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the real test, I believe, that many of them face. And I'm excited to work with them. So I say a few words about myself.
Yes, 100%. So Yuval, same question for you. Who are you? What do you do? And why
So
the
my
hell?
name is Yuval Wollman. I'm the president of CyberProof. I've been engaged with cybersecurity over 25 years now. I started my career as a junior officer in a cybersecurity agency. And, you know, it was a different era many years ago. Things changed, but what did not change is the value that you want to bring. And in my journey, it started as how do you bring value to certain goals, intelligence, military, etc. Now, over the past few years, ever since I assumed the position of CyberProof President, it's more about value to organizations, to corporates, working with people such as Cecil. This is what drives me. And, eventually we're talking about security, but it's business.
Mm-hmm.
So how you help the business by securing it.
Mm-hmm.
This is what makes things so enjoyable for me and everything going on around it. The connection between threats, real, landscape of threats on one hand, and the growing technology that supports it on the other hand. For both sides, the arms race. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Well, before we get into kind of the juicy parts of the conversation, I mean, not that this next question isn't juicy. I mean, we kind of touched base before we hit the record button on, a recent passion of yours that you are exploring and kind of evangelizing about or educating people on. Can you kind of drill down into that and let us know what that is?
Sure. So my background, I'm Israeli. I'm Israeli American, but most of my life I lived in Israel, and I started my career with the Israeli intelligence. And something happened quite dramatic with Israeli intelligence and with Israel in general in October 7th and afterwards, of course. And I kept asking myself as a former officer, and I paid my reserve duty for decades after I finished my regular service, what happened to the Israeli intelligence and what does it mean, not only for me as Israeli, because my family and friends are back in the homeland, but also as a professional. What does it mean? What lessons can I take to my day-to-day life and, converse with friends and colleagues? And I think that there are a few lessons that I investigate, I research, and I'm happy to talk about that if we have the time later. But the main message that I got, the main lesson is, and it's quite standard. I don't think I'm going to make any surprises, but the fact that it is rooted in such a dramatic and tragic events in a place that I grew up in professionally makes it, shocking. And this is keep focusing on having the right vision. When you look at the Israeli intelligence on October 7th and you go a few years or maybe even a decade back, you see that the vision shifted, and that shift caused the tragic events of October 7th. So maybe we can develop that as well.
Yeah, I mean, vision, a security vision is, a lot, I feel like it's a lot more difficult to ingrain in not just a country, but also an organization. I mean, I see you're itching there to maybe say something, Cecil, but do you have any kind of color commentary on vision versus tactics? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it all starts with a vision. And if you in my job, and I always have a lot of the things I have to do needs to align to our vision, not just to the security vision, but also the corporate vision. And what happens sometimes, you get too much signals, too much noise, you get lost in it. And I think that's where leadership comes into play, where someone needs to keep directing you to the right path. And I think when you get lost to that in that noise, it's easy. It's easy to get lost. At the job that I do every day, I have to make sure that all these tactical things I'm doing must align to those vision. And it's not hard. I can easily go to any rabbit hole every day.
Yeah.
And distraction is a big problem because cybersecurity is so dynamic. It changes every minute. 1 minute you're headed here, and then you get distracted by another more important things. And sometimes, we're only humans. We're not computers. It's so easy to get away from your vision. So
I would, if I may, I would add that, chatting with you before we started, to set the vision and make sure as a leader that it is being followed up. Yeah. It's all along the journey of your organization. Earlier in your career, you just told us that you built something from scratch in one of the airports you've been setting up, one of the biggest in the States, I believe. So this is one kind of vision that it's different kind of challenges, but now when you're part of a mature organization, big company with large team that you have, it's a different kind of challenge, right? But it's the same problem of leading your team to the right place. And in your case, it's dual vision, the security vision, and this is what I find so fascinating working with Chief Information Security Officer, but the business vision of the company and how you connect. And you have more and more, I believe so, challenges in communicating with the C-suite because there is a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah.
When you think of vision, right, and you also look back at your experience in the 20 plus years you've been security professionals, do you see that the landscape has changed at all? Yes, no, or?
You start.
Yes, I think that dramatically it has changed. I mean, threats and risks was always there from the dawn of history and warfare, whether it's cybersecurity or not. But what we've seen over the past 2 days, I mean, the landscape when I was a junior officer 25 years ago was totally different from what we're seeing today. The fact that technology emerged so fast with the revolution of AI, generative AI, the past few years, and obviously the threat landscape itself. You asked about that, right? So we're seeing things that were not there 20 years ago. The fraction between the various blocks, the war in Ukraine, the tension around Taiwan, the war in the Middle East, Iran, North Korea. I mean, these things, it's not constant. It's growing. It's growing fast. And there are implications, economic implications, geopolitical, but of course in the cybersecurity area. So definitely, I am seeing changes.
Yeah. Back in 2006, I was given an opportunity to secure 60 of our web applications. I didn't have any background in application security, but I wanted to learn, and I was excited. And I see all these, once I implemented all our controls and monitoring tools, running the scans regularly, I was looking at all these alerts and I said, wow, we're getting hammered almost every day. And I thought to myself, I even told my CISO back then, things will get better. We're gonna defend our organizations, our applications much better every day. We're gonna increase our scans, increase our controls, increase our monitoring. 18 years later, I thought that was a really bad thing back then, and the problems are magnified by maybe 20, 30 times now. The consequences are bigger today. Financially, reputationally, organizations some of them are actually closing shops because get impacted. And in 2006, I thought things will get better because I thought the cybersecurity industry at that time are, no, we're gonna manage and contain this. It's not. We're maybe 3 steps behind.
Wow.
In some cases.
Why do you think that we're so behind yet adversaries are so ahead? Is that a correct kind of assumption?
I have a theory in this regard.
Yeah.
I'll be very short. I think that I'm not sure that the gap is that big, as you say, but it's not a symmetric arm race, because the adversaries, and namely the areas in the Eastern Hemisphere, we mentioned a few powers that are funding that directly. So in a way, most of those rogue groups are being directly funded, and state level knowledge is funneled to them.
Mm-hmm.
While if you look at companies such as mine and others in the industry, more on the defensive side, this is a longer process of extracting the knowledge from the state level capability. I'm talking now about companies mostly, which are, I think, one of the reasons we convene is to talk about how important infrastructure companies can be hit by cyber attacks. So these companies, they build their defense based on products and talent that has a lot of depth, but still the pace of the knowledge coming from the state level, agencies is slower at the defense than in the offense. So that's a model that I keep exploring. I ask myself, on top of that, how would the generative AI revolution impact this arms race?
Right. Sorry, Cecil, you wanted to add to that?
I want it's difficult on the defensive side. We have to close all our doors and windows and everything. It's just too much work. Bad guys, they're targeted.
Yeah.
They're not going to invest a lot of money to target one. They will not even invest a lot of money. A lot of them are just patience and a combination of luck and some open gaps that an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's what they need. To do that is not very expensive.
Yeah.
To defend, it's super expensive and there's a lot of work. Not just technology, people as well, and developing processes around it.
Yeah.
I love the economics that you add into it.
Yeah.
Because if you look at those groups of offenders, it's a business.
Yeah.
Many of them, it's a business. It's the third largest economy today in the world, the fastest growing economy. And if they have the right business model that works, the return is huge. You don't need to work that hard to get a lot of money through ransomware, etc. Back speaking about the Change Health attack.
Well, speaking again of Change Healthcare attack, why do you think the healthcare industry is such a lucrative target for attackers?
I can start.
Yes.
I have been in healthcare twice now in my career. I think number one reason is the data that we collect. If you're familiar with the ecosystem of the healthcare industry, it's almost unending connectivity and partnerships with different from the health systems, the EHRs, the payers, clearinghouses, transcription services, so biotech. Most organizations, most healthcare systems may probably have at least 1,000 partners.
Wow.
And so the first is the amount of data. Second is the complexity.
Yeah.
Too many partners. There's a lot of opportunities. And I think going back to the first one about the dependence on technology, we have very limited ability to operate without technology. So if I got a ransomware and if you're not ready to recover quickly, the tendency is, hey, we need to get back in a few days. So what's the easiest? Maybe pay.
Yeah.
I would like to add, I think it's a great point. You started with the data, how sensitive is the data and the exposure because of the complexity of the system, the healthcare system. It's also a critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
A society cannot function with this fundamental service.
It's a help,
And if you can threaten it and pause it and disrupt it, you gain a lot of value as an attacker. And this is exactly what we've seen, not only on the Change Health, but even before the UK a few years ago. I mean, such a vulnerable space can yield such a high return for the attackers.
Yeah. Can you take me through?
I want to add something.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to steal this from a good friend of mine. He's a CISO of one of our clients. And he said, historically also, you know this, healthcare organizations were kind of a little bit late into this cybersecurity game. The finance industry came first, and healthcare is catching up. So he told me, Michael Levinson, his name is, majority of healthcare organizations were using some, were kind of delayed in the implementation of the cutting edge technologies.
Very briefly, from what I followed, the Black Cat group executed a 3-layer extortion ransomware. They came in early, stayed around, started to extract the data, and open the business shop of ransomware. And I think what's so interesting about the way they did it is the impact. It shut down significant chunks of the U.S. healthcare system, because Change Healthcare is embedded in many organizations. Speaking of all the partners,
40% of the clearinghouses go through them.
It's unbelievable, the impact.
Wow.
So you have a very strong position in the negotiations. But it's not only that, because from what we've seen, parts of the ransomware was paid. But it did not end the affair.
Yeah.
Some of the data was probably moved away to another group.
Affiliates.
Exactly. And you had a second round. So this ongoing ransomware attack that Black Cat initiated, I think it's the most up-to-date form of threat that organizations, not only in healthcare, any vulnerable industry, are facing. So it's a lot about how they did it and how you adjust your defenses and processes accordingly.
A lot of health organizations, providers were affected.
Yeah.
We're starting to realize that it was one of many single point of failures. And I think it's a bad thing what happened, but I think it's a great wake-up call that organizations, hospitals, even the small practices, to diversify using, there's other clearinghouses.
Yeah.
And at that point, organizations realize, we need a secondary clearinghouse, a tertiary sometimes.
That's interesting. So I kind of want to tug on that thread a little bit. Given what we've seen with Black Hat's, behavior, is there anything we can learn from like the trends from the attack, their motivations that are going to change or impact the healthcare space in the future? Do you foresee that, changing the way security organizations in healthcare are going to behave?
I think, and I think the government is leading the way. We're long overdue for something like PCI for the credit card industry. I think we need something like to help us secure health organizations. I believe we need something stronger than HIPAA. But we all know that's going to happen eventually. It's just many of us are prepared. The problem is all of these threats, as we discussed earlier, it's dynamic, it's ever changing.
Yeah.
And as an example, this group, it's not just a single party.
Yeah.
It's a group of affiliates working together. And this collaboration makes them much more scarier. And that's why one of the reasons I helped build CISO XC is we could help build collaboration in the, for the good guys.
100%.
Cecil, you touched a very important point about some government ownership, how you can provide an envelope of support to the industry, how it can work further, enhance it with large companies, exchange data, exchange intelligence and threats. So these shifts, we've seen that the past few years. I think it started with the war in Ukraine, but I think what happened with Change Health and other events will constitute a more enhanced approach coming from the government. The generative AI revolution brings more involvement into that. And we're seeing how the White House and also regulators in Europe are trying to put policies and controls and sharing data. And that will be part of the revolution, seeing the support coming from bigger, government affiliated agencies to support companies and other agencies.
Could we touch a little bit on the clearinghouses? You mentioned clearinghouses, and I want to understand that a little bit more. So how can an attack on a clearinghouse impact the sector as a whole?
Oh, they perform, we process claims there. We use
how is
them.
it interconnected? Like what? Take me through that a little bit.
It is, the entire health system is a complex web of connectivity, and hospitals, when they submit their claims, they go through those clearinghouses. And those clearinghouses are the ones going to process all those claims. And that's when that single point of failure fails, basically, the big hospitals, they survive because they have enough funds. The smaller practices are the ones who really suffered because they couldn't collect payments because they couldn't submit claims.
Wow.
And today there are many clearinghouses. Change is one of the big ones, and it's backed by the big United Healthcare Group. But there are a lot of other smaller clearinghouses that perform the same service and probably the same cost.
When you mentioned that I need to, as a response to what happened, I need to open more partnerships with more clearinghouses, right? I think it's a business reaction because we're talking about business risk first and foremost.
Yeah,
and we're here to serve the business, right? So when you try to assess how do I prepare myself for the next attack that will come, you are always exposed to a certain degree. It's a risk management play. You need to ask yourself, what do I want to protect? Once you understand what do I want to protect, you can make decisions. I'm going to further partners to mitigate the risk. I'm trying to contain the attack, so I would cut my losses. Isolate the assets that were damaged or stolen. These kind of processes and methodologies, it's even before technology. We're speaking about the technology revolution and all the products that you need to buy and adjust and design. Even before that, how you execute a good control process in organizations, working with the C-suite, educating the C-suite. All these, I think it was a great wake-up call in a way that I'm seeing making a change already.
Anything that you want to add, Cecil, like from an anecdote or experience perspective? And I imagine this somewhat impacted you. I mean, when we spoke, you were like, I didn't sleep. So first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been several weeks of long hours, but I wish I could share more, but I can. There are a lot of organizations. I don't know if you've seen the 2023 numbers, like 58 ransomware in healthcare every month.
Wow.
And, that's only those who have made notifications to the OCR. Yeah. And I have a lot of friends, and from time to time I get a phone call and, hey, we're going through this. A lot of them very isolated, nothing as big as change, but it's a very difficult role for not just a CISO, but for an organization, because the impact is organization-wide. Yeah. And I know friends who have not slept for maybe 3-4 days because they were addressing many of these events, and it's difficult because you mentioned earlier, we are in the business of providing care, and when you provide care, you don't pick a date. Patients are coming in and in droves, and you need to provide care. and it's very difficult for us because we're trying to balance availability, operations, and our cybersecurity controls. When things happen like this, you feel like you're gonna start writing a resume or something,
Oh,
or
man.
start calling. It's difficult but 100% of the people in my role, I know when things happen, we go head on and address it. No matter what, we work hard to contain it and recover.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah.
What I and I don't envy you, Cecil, in these kind of situations, because through the mitigation process, which is super hectic, you also need to communicate all the time. You need to be cool and open and transparent and communicate. But even when you communicate, you need to be very careful.
Yeah.
Public companies now are committed to the SEC new regulations, and I think your company is part of that as well, right? So this is a law, a regulation that is being shaped as we speak because it has not been tested enough in courts to design the new ruling in a way. What is material damage? When do you report
Yeah.
it, etc.? So you have so many dimensions
Yeah.
of stress. So I guess you have not slept too long back then.
Yeah. And that's the hard part, is balancing what you could communicate and what you can't communicate. It's very difficult because you talk to the lawyers, the less is better, but at the same time, when you talk to technical people, when you don't provide context and details, it's so hard to recover because you're not providing additional information. So it is really a balancing act. And I don't think anyone I know are experts in that field. It's the landscape's changing. It's a lot of legal component. So it is a very struggle, and that's why I always make sure that when something is happening, my first call should always be the chief legal officer.
So take me through. I want to kind of get a little bit prescriptive here on mitigation strategies for, managing the business risk. Okay, we've experienced an incident like this, large one. Can you take me through some steps, practical steps, pragmatic steps that someone sitting in your seat and also in your seat can take to potentially, mitigate that risk?
Well, I don't think we have all day.
I know, right?
But I'll make it short. But I think number one is speed. Why speed? Speed in everything. Speed in the investigation. Speed in communication. When you're in the at the start of this, every second counts. And the longer that you are sitting on it, it's almost too late. And I think this is where your incident response plan kicks off. And the more you test it, the more you practice it, I think it will help you. It is almost like when at that point you start going through your emotions of all, these are the people I need to talk to at the business side, legal side. And then there's also the technical side because you have to talk to each one of them. Then you need to talk to your insurers. You need to talk to your, just a lot of the public relations and other things. They come late. But the first hour, somehow people think that the first hour is probably quick. It's not. The first hour feels really slow because there's a lot of things you have to go, each one of them. You miss one, it's somehow there's a ripple effect when you miss one step. So you gotta practice. And that's why most organizations, most CISOs, then whenever they ask me, how frequent do we need to test it? I said, if you can test it 10 times a year, you should.
Yeah.
Again, it's not possible, but more as often as possible.
When you look at the steps that you're taking, and we at CyberProof, we work very closely with CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, when it happens. Obviously, this is part of our assignment. But it's also, and I think you're related to that, Cecil, what you do before.
Yeah.
How do you prepare your organization? Not only the security, you have experts in your team, you groomed them, you recruited them, but you did not recruit chief legal officer, chief financial officer, the CEO, the board members. But you still own their preparedness for that, right? So how do you put a culture in the organization, in the leadership, including the board? That is a big challenge that needs to be addressed in advance. And then once you address that over time, then you have the playbooks, and it's easier to follow with them those playbooks.
It will happen. It's just a matter of time. And I think after that, after preparedness is, if it will happen, I think the recovery is where you need to perfect your steps, the cadence, the people, the technology, the process behind it. It will dictate how fast you could go back in operations.
Yeah, go for it.
Last point from my end, working with teams such as the Cecil's, it's also the value that I believe in is also bringing intelligence. Speaking of intelligence, the intelligent threat hunting, things that are relevant right now, things that you can find out as clues before, retroactively, if you didn't catch it before. But now, what are the next steps? Where is the data? This kind of an envelope support is very relevant to organizations such as Cecil's.
Can you take me through how you actually, you mentioned, well, there's what happens when, pardon my French, but shit hits the fan, right? And then there's what happens before that you need prep. Can you tell me how CyberProof has helped prepare prior to any potential incidents like this?
So there are very clear methodologies on how a board and C-suite should work when something like that happens.
Yeah.
How do you collect the data? How do you communicate that internally to your team members? You need to be ready in your playbooks to a situation where a reporter calls one of the team members in marketing or in HR and try to extract a reporter, legally trying to extract knowledge of what happened. How do you communicate what happens to that HR person? And not only what happened, how to share that or not share that with anyone who is trying to extract this knowledge from him. This is the level of preparedness that you need to put in place in advance.
One of the interesting things when you go through a lot of this exercise, at some point, you're ready when no one opens the IR plan anymore. It's like, everyone knows what to do. And I like that. To that point, the people, they know what they need to do.
Yeah.
When they start looking at, during exercises, I don't have to tell, hey, Mike, you need to start looking at the AD logs. They already have, it's like imprinted on their brain. What are those steps?
Yeah. Well, what goes into an IR plan? Sorry, you wanted to
just to add that, again, we're here to serve the business.
Yeah.
And the business would be impacted by the ripples and rumors that will go outside. So it's very important to work with a CEO and the board on, do I pay? When do I ask this question, to pay or not to pay? What do I need to report to the SEC? These guys, they need to be very ready to act cool when it happens, to convene the right forum at the right time, give the chief information security officer his degrees of freedom to make decisions and report back. So again, I'm coming back to what we spoke at the beginning, what we discussed at the beginning, the culture.
Yeah.
So culture is something that you work over time. You cannot just make it up when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. You talked about culture this morning as well.
It's I'm a big
communication,
fan.
culture. But in the conversations I have with practitioners and even with some of the, subject matter experts from vendors, communication seems to be a great challenge for them, not just in the way you communicate, but, getting the words out, connecting with people. What are kind of, some steps professionals can take to be more confident to communicate when disasters happen, not just in general across departments for collaboration, but when disasters happen?
Communication and culture should be handled and resolved in any case.
Yeah.
If you do that, it will be relevant when incident is happening. And if there is one point that I would like to make when it comes to culture, and it's super relevant to critical positions such as in the security organization, is to nurture an environment of being open and transparent. Feel comfortable to share. Coming back to my experience in the intelligence, if there was one thing that we were taught, even when I was a cadet, a young, even before becoming an officer, was speak your mind, even if it would cost you, or you think it would cost you, all the way up. If you're not being heard or you feel you're not being heard, don't fear, because we make sure that the culture, the environment, would not charge you against it. I think it was eroded over time when the places that I grew up in, but it doesn't matter. In every organization, including the one that you lead, you want to provide this kind of secure environment.
Yeah. I think it's really important that people should not feel that they can speak their mind.
Yeah.
Because especially in incidents, you leave one aspect, you don't even realize it could lead to other, impact. So it's important that folks not just in my security team, but outside the security team, that we need to, when they see something different and it might, for example, I did not fix this last week, instead of hiding it, you make it worse. I think it's important that you bring it up. We did have one server that we were not able to patch, and let's look there, because just that small piece of information could have saved days. So,
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the role of a leader, yourself, in making sure that the team is not distracted, rather being focused, aligned with the vision. But at the same time, you want to keep them focused.
Yeah.
Guys, let's focus on the important stuff. But you want them to still feel comfortable to say whatever they think. So it's a fine line that you need to balance all the time. This is part of the challenge in leadership, especially in security organizations.
And don't forget the emotions.
Yes.
In tabletop exercises, you can't, even if you could fabricate emotions, it's not there. It's not there. But you could feel the room. People are getting frustrated. Some have not slept in 2 days. It's one of those things that you expect leaders to be able to plan well, be able to make sure that your admins have someone who could, sometimes people just need to take a break.
Yeah.
And they'll have a fresher perspective and
walk the dogs.
Walk the dog and I know how we can fix it.
Yeah.
It's a combination of, as a leader, you look at those tactical things, but at the same time, don't lose yourself on the vision or what you're trying to do. Let's stick to that and work together.
Do you you haven't slept for some time, and I'm glad you're out here in Los Angeles to relax a little bit. But taking a look at some of the partners you work with, the vendors, what's your expectation from them when things like this happen? Do you hope that they, what would you expect from them to do for you during an incident?
I expect them to be supportive of all the work we do, because I think for some partners, they think just selling the license is enough. I think that's not a partnership.
Yeah.
I think that's just a transaction. And I work with companies that I feel are our partners.
Yeah.
And I think for most CISOs I know, they're not looking for a transaction. They're looking for a long-term partnership and collaboration. And when things happen, we need them to be there to support us.
This is a great point. And this is why I picked my role in industry, because I believe in partnerships. And the way we founded the CyberProof was to be focused on working with large companies. working with large companies, not providing a cookie cutter solution to smaller companies. It's about relationship, how you constitute this trust over time. I'm there for you not only when bad things are happening, but also when good things are happening. But mostly when you're trying to set the vision. And coming back to the topic that we kicked off with, I believe in working together on a vision. Maybe my partner, my customer, has a full-fledged vision and he doesn't need my help, or she doesn't need my help in shaping it. But even if in that case, we'll help you with the execution all the way. This is why I picked the enterprise market, because it's a long-term thing about trust and relationship.
Yeah.
Well, what do we do with the smaller businesses? You know, you mentioned there are some smaller hospitals and organizations in healthcare that are impacted, right? And can't necessarily stay afloat. Like, what do we do in that regard, you know?
So they are less exposed at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
So the risk is lower, and there are great solutions in the market for them. They will need, I think, if I am to lead business-wise a small healthcare organization, like very small small network chain of clinics, I would need to make sure that I pick a very good security guy that will know how to coordinate between all the vendors because you won't be able to put in-house a team.
Yeah.
I think, Cecil, you have a very large team in your company because it's a big company. Smaller company, smaller healthcare provider, you cannot afford that. So you need a very strong person that would know how to coordinate. He would not sleep much, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and they will be able to much simpler setup. There are a lot of SMB products out there that are actually quite good. And I think the bottom line is just basic hygiene. I think help. It goes a long way, you know, making sure that their Windows update is turned on. They have antivirus. Would be good if they could, you know, in some way segment their network, you know, so when something happens, only a small part of the network is impacted. So I think the basic hygiene will, you know, help them. Yeah.
Well, we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to open up the mic to you, Yuval, and you, Cecil, to ask each other questions. You know, I've been grilling the both of you, and part of my vision for my podcast is to allow the both of you to interview each other and learn about your roles, learn about your lives, learn about the people, the human part. So by all means, if there's anything that you want to ask each other, you know, now is the great time to do that.
I can start asking you, Val, what do you do when you're not being the president of a cybersecurity company?
The most important thing in my life, obviously, is my family. So I'm trying to be a devoted husband and father. I have young kids, so I try to spend as much time as I can between travel and work with them. They're very young, so it's very enjoyable. Although not easy, so I don't sleep also because of that. And the other thing, again, less looking about myself, but more about my community. I'm coming back to October 7th. My homeland, Israel, was hit very hard. And what I decided to do, again, it's 8 months or maybe more months ago, what I decided to do is to pick one cause where I can be impactful in supporting. And we picked me and my friends in the community, Jewish community in LA, and my team members in Tel Aviv. I have global team, but a specific team in Tel Aviv. We picked a community that was shattered, and we just channeled as much as resources that we can, our time, funds that we collected and raised to support that community. So I'm engaged with that project. You could call it the CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility Project, but much of my spare time I allocate to working with them. One of the things that we did, and I'm very proud of, we took some of the youth or the youngsters in that community, and we trained them for cybersecurity. They have zero background in technology, but there are, you know, methodologies of how to fast train and fast track this kind of skill setting. So this is what I do with my time, and that's a great question. Thank you. But I must ask you the same.
No, it's not nice to know people, you know, who's Yuval behind, you know, outside of work.
So now I'm asking you the same question.
Well,
I'm intrigued.
I do a lot, but between outside, what I do for my day job. It's a lot of hours, but the remaining hours, fortunately or unfortunately, I do miss them when they were small. All my daughters are big kids now, out of college, so I get to spend a lot of time with my fur babies. They help me manage stress.
Yes.
We talk about that, Danny, a lot. Um, I do a lot of community work. Very big on community. Very big on friends. I've added a new friend now.
Yes, amazing.
And I
But
know.
you both could buy me a drink for that, by the way.
Yeah,
You deserve it.
there's cybersecurity is a very big, it's a large domain. It's impossible for me to know everything, and I think the community helped me not just learn other best practices. Some of the best practices they don't write it on a website or on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. And some of the best ideas I've learned are from practitioners like me. They share what they do that are unique, and I share the same. And it's a very open and community where we learn from each other. And I think my CISO XC organization, I think it's one of the probably biggest thing outside my day job that I do. I don't really spend as much time, but the good thing there are weekends now that I could get to spend time. It's also volunteer driven, so a lot of the actual work is not being done by me, but a lot of the
Well done.
volunteers.
Yeah.
It's I mentor a lot of kids, not just kids, some professionals who are transitioning from another career to cybersecurity, or someone who's a little bit at the rank and file, wanting to move up, mentoring them, not just outside my work, but inside R1. I do mentor some of our employees to how they can move up, how they could improve their profession.
It's fascinating.
So I do a lot, and
Yeah.
I mountain bike when it's not raining, and a lot of things. And I, I think I told you, Danny. The other day I haven't eaten anything. It's 5 o'clock, and I said, I should text we have a CISO chat group. I said, hey, who's free in an hour and have dinner with me? I don't want to eat alone.
Yeah.
It's like 4 people showed up. Like, nice. So,
Cool.
Right on.
I have a question for you. I'm actually very interested to get your thoughts on that. I'm moving back to cybersecurity.
okay. Make it easy.
For you, everything is easy, I guess. We live in a much consolidated world of tools, of stacks. We're seeing a lot of money coming in from the hyperscalers, but not only. And even I met a company, cybersecurity vendor, just a few weeks ago, and they're not that big, but they're so ambitious and consolidating the cloud and the monitoring and full stack. And I want to get your perspective on where you see the market goes as someone who consumes much of those products and I don't know, services.
Whether platform or
whether you believe in the consolidation process you see now, whether you can see the benefit in it, how do you respond to it?
For a complex organization, there are benefits. There's pros and cons, and that's something I actually went through many times. Do I approach it platform wise, or do I apply defense in depth and adding layers, adding diversity? It's a very difficult question, really, because I would always go lean towards what's really my risk. And the consolidation is really good when you don't have a lot of resources, when you have a very simple organization, a simple, layout. For complex organizations, I would recommend, at least for me, my preference is using defense in depth, using a diverse set of tools. The reason is because the adversaries are really difficult to stop. And once they get past one of, if it's a single platform, once they get past the front door, they'll be able to get inside, your network freely. Essentially, a lot of these consolidated tools use same threat intelligence, same filters, same engines. And at least I feel like if I have diverse tools, if the firewall didn't stop it, at least some of the tools inside my network would be able to capture those threats. So again, it's a topic that's been debated too long by many of my peers. My circle of friends, we debate on that a lot.
Yeah.
Whether we go a platform approach or layered approach.
Yeah.
Majority like the layered approach, but at the same time, complexity. When you have too much complexity, you miss things. You miss signals.
Yeah.
When you have too many data sources, too many tools, too many alerts getting into you, you're bound to miss something. So it's really balancing it. If you have enough people and what to call these tools that consolidate alerts and minimize the noise.
Yep.
I think you should go for the layered approach.
Yeah. I think so I agree with your analysis. It also depends on the resources that you have.
Yeah.
How to face those, let's say, two options.
Yeah.
To go one stack or layered. It's also about if you do pick. What I see in the market is more and more, because of the huge investment coming in from the hyperscalers that I mentioned earlier, it is more appealing now to go to the platform unified approach that you say. However, if you do pick the other one, you need to make sure that you have enough resources to maintain it, to design it, to engineer it. It's not easy. It's a big task. Now I see organizations that do it successfully, but it's a big risk that they not always assess correctly. I met a customer just less than a week ago, thinking, I'm going to do the layer approach, as you call it. Hold on, you have only 4 people in your team. You cannot really afford it because the cost is not visible to you yet.
What are the assessment steps for the best way to assess?
It's a lot. You have to take into account so many elements. The environment, your technology that you're running in your company, your threat exposure. You need to know you need to know your assets. So there's so many aspects in your organization. In the tool itself, you have to make sure they can scale, they can interoperate. Everyone says, "Oh, we work with Palo Altos, we work with all CrowdStrike." Just a syslog. That's it. It's not exactly like, working hand. It's beyond the marketing. I think go talk to a reference customer. I think it's one of the things that we value at CISO XC is we are, hey, how good is product X? Someone asked yesterday, how good is this company? It's like 25 people said, mostly good and some with some not so good experience. So I think getting the peers, CISO's input is really valuable.
Yeah, the community is very powerful.
Yeah.
Especially if you design it as you did, which is very impressive, the community that you built. But I know that it cuts both ways. If you're doing, me as a vendor, if I'm doing something well, most likely I'll be referenced to more friends. But if I mess up, I need to be very calculated in how I contain it, manage it, explain it, because my reputation is almost everything that I have.
100%.
I think it's my turn to ask Yuval.
Oh, God.
Well, I have many friends. A lot of my CISO friends will be, once you finish the production, even though I hate my voice and I'm not made for TV, I'm going to share it to my friends. And it's probably at least 100, 200 CISOs who's going to probably watch this. And what do you do? Why would they want to visit your website and even, get a demo? what is it? I'm pretty sure you're biased, but give us your
My
objective.
pitch.
Yeah, you give us your
The
your
CyberProof
pitch.
spiel. Let's
Yeah.
So if I couldn't convey my message indirectly through the conversation about
Yeah.
what I believe I should do, I will try to narrow it down, reduce it to a couple of sentences. CyberProof would be considered as an enterprise MDR, managed detection and response company. This is what we do. But what differentiates us, our focus in the enterprise market is because we want to build a long-term relationship in driving a vision to the company. What does it mean? We come early to design the architecture, to think together what is best. And we do it very well in a cloud migrating environments. So we have long-standing partnership with Microsoft over the past 5 to 6 years when they just started their journey. Now they're, I believe, the best tech in the world. But Google as well. We just signed off in the RSA conference that we spoke about earlier. We announced our partnership with them. So we do believe in cloud migration, cloud transformation. We've developed tools, technology, and capabilities and talent around it.
Yeah.
And what we do very well today is working with large enterprises in this process, in this transformation process. And I believe that we're good at that because it excites us. And I'm excited by relationship more than anything else, working with people such as yourself, but also to face the problems together and solve it, if possible, together.
I think my takeaway there is I felt the passion there, which is really an important factor when we're looking for partners. A lot of my friends are looking for people who are leaders who are dedicated and passionate about their product and solutions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we have 5 minutes left. I want to ask any last imparting thoughts to our audience today, given what we talked about, or something top of mind?
I think Yuval can start again.
So I want to go back to what the point I made at the beginning.
Yeah.
What I want to do with my customers and my colleagues and my employees is always create an environment, as we spoke earlier, about open conversation. And what I found to be lacking many times is it's not easy to say what you think.
Yeah.
It's not easy to understand what the other guy or gal thinks of what you said or what you did.
Yeah.
So you need to develop sensors and tools how to extract the feedback from them. That's not easy. That's not easy. We think it's easy, but it's not, because people would not always feel comfortable to tell you what they believe, what they think, of how you can improve.
Yeah.
Now, it's not always the most important thing to hear what everyone has to say about everything, but you need to reduce it to extract this kind of value input from your audience, your friends, your kids, your spouse. So I'm trying to focus on that many times. And one of the ways that I'm doing that, I initiated, and I'm sure that many executives do it, I didn't invent it for sure, some sort of a coffee break with the president, because I'm the president of the company. And in this coffee break, I, with a random employee that I'm not used to work day to day, I asked the HR to generate for me a list of counterparts that I can meet for this virtual coffee break, because it's a global team. So I prepare questions about how do you understand the vision of the company? What do you think of the vision of the company, etc. But it's not what I asked, it's how I asked it.
Yeah.
And then I leave half of the time, it's a 30-minute catch up, half of the time, talk about everything you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Just speak out about the company, about yourself, etc. So culturally, that would be a challenge that I'm very engaged with.
We have a lot to talk about. Offline. I think we got something going here.
Okay.
Cecil, what about you? Last thoughts before we
Yeah,
wrap
it's
up?
almost like a rewind from this morning. It's
I know.
culture.
Yeah.
I'm big on that. And technology is important.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for organizations to be able to protect better, I think the people are key. The people who are working, tuning the knobs, looking at logs, these are they will do a good job when they are managed and treated well.
Yeah.
They will do the right thing for the company. You don't have to check what they're doing. You know, when you've developed a great culture within your organization, they'll do the right thing for the company. I'm here right now, took a day off. I know those guys back there are doing their job, doing the right thing for the organization. So, and I think part of the reason that is, going well is because of the culture.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, this has been an awesome session. You both are always welcome back to the studio. Thank you again for coming out and giving us your insight. Please again, come again anytime.
Look forward to the next time.
Yeah, the next time.
Thank you for
again, we'll talk
inviting
about it. Yeah,
Thank you.
100%.
And introducing me to Cecil.
Yes, 100%. Well, this has been another episode of Audience First. We are out.